What decision are you avoiding making? My name is Michelle Kline. I am the host of the DogCo Secrets podcast and the founder of DogCo Launch, where I help pet care companies grow and scale. And today we are going to talk about avoiding making decisions and taking action as this needed requirement to get our business where we are wanting it to go. I have found that in business and in my personal life, most of the success I am looking for is hidden behind a decision that I do not want to make. Whether this is a decision about business, maybe a people issue I'm avoiding dealing with, an issue in our numbers and our revenue, or maybe a personal decision, just something that I know I need to do. When I finally take action, I usually find the answers I have been looking for. Likewise, I have found that staying in indecision is the worst place you can be in as a business owner, and I will stand by that every day. That is a place that I try to spend as little time as possible. So today I want to talk about decisive action, what decisions that we may need to make that we are avoiding, and what I believe this will do for your business when we finally step in, make the decision, and take action. So I want to kick us off with this question of, have you ever felt incredibly stuck in your business? Here's the thing. I would wager a guess that the answer is yes. I think the real question is, do you feel stuck now, or have you felt stuck previously? One of those two. Chances are, if that is a feeling coming up for you at this present moment, there is a decision you are avoiding making or an action you've been avoiding taking that needs to happen. So a belief that I hold just generally about human nature is that people are geared towards movement if there are not barriers in their way. And I believe that entrepreneurs especially can almost be kind of addicted to that. Like, we like movement, we like action, we like progress. We're kind of built all around it. So our natural trajectory will be towards that unless there is something limiting us. Do you want to take your pet care business to the next level? The DogCo Mastermind is currently open for enrollment. I only open up twice a year. I take a group of companies in together as a group, and we work together for a full 12 months to focus on scaling your pet care business. We focus on building your operations, all the resources that you need to get there, increasing your revenue to hit your next targets, and building it in a way that keeps it like a business that you love to run. If this sounds like something that would help your business get to the next level through 2025 and 2026, go to dogcolaunch.com to learn more. Doors are open until June 6th or until all seats are taken. So I have found that limitation is oftentimes going to come from one of three places. So if we are feeling stuck, there is either a belief that we hold that is holding us back, whether that is conscious or unconscious. That might be a belief about your business. That might be a belief about the world, a belief about you yourself. A belief that is holding us back is going to be limitation number one. Number two, a skill that we need that we do not yet have. So maybe we're feeling stuck because we don't know how to do something. The good news that I have for you is that I think this is the easiest limitation to move past, because what we need to do is frame that deficit into a how-to question, and that's going to unlock movement just in and of itself. So if we realize we have a skill deficit, then we need to move into action of, how do I get that skill? Maybe it's skills in marketing and leadership and financial literacy, whatever it may be, but that's going to be limitation number two, is we do not yet have the skill. Limitation number three is going to be a decision we need to make that we have been avoiding making. So today I want to talk about avoiding decisions, how that holds your business back, and where to go from here. The decisions you make in your business essentially correlate to the actions you take over time. So there's this proportional relationship between decisions and action. They feed each other. If we can't make decisive decisions, then the action, which is the output of the decision, never occurs. And action is the only thing that actually moves your business forward. So doing this thought exercise, if you think back to an impactful season in your business, that season either came from a decision which led to an action that you took at that time, or as the result of a decisive action you had taken before then that you were reaping the return on. Every movement in our business, every return to us through the business comes from an action that we took. Which I think leads us to the question of why can action be so hard to take when we know that it is the reason that things actually move forward? And not to oversimplify it, but I believe oftentimes it is because we doubt ourselves. We overthink, we question, and then we hide behind our indecision. We use our indecision, and I do this too, just so you know. So if you're feeling like massively called out right now, just know it's a we problem. We hide behind our indecision. So we use that as the reason we can't do something, the reason we can't move forward. And we tell ourselves this story that I don't have enough information, when the reality is, again, lovingly, if that is true, then the decision we need to make is, how do I go get the information I do not yet have? And usually, I have found, at least for myself personally, it is not true. We do not lack information most often. We lack courage and conviction. Courage to make a decision that may ultimately be wrong, but to still make it anyways, and conviction to keep going. The reality is we will never have all the information we need to make a decision, because if we did, there would not be a market return to us. The market favors risk. It rewards those that create, iterate, and build, and that do that first in the market, or that do that best in the market. And there is an assumed level of risk within that. So part of this art form, I have found at least, of entrepreneurship, is learning how to make really good decisions with the information we have at hand. And yes, there's a wisdom in going to get more information if we truly do not have enough, but also kind of fighting that very human nature of needing to see the entire picture before we can take action. Because the market does not reward that thought process. It does not reward those that wait until it is safe. And if we can't do that, then oftentimes we stay stuck in a place of indecision, stuck in a place of not taking action. Man, I hope this one doesn't hit too hard, because I just read my next note. We're just going to go for it, you know? The reality also is that we introduce a lot of needless suffering into our journey of business ownership when we angst over decisions we need to make. And I just want y'all to know I'm the queen of this, the queen of just like this anxiety cycle around a decision. And I can tell you 10 times out of 10, that spiral around the decision and the angst that I introduce to myself personally around whatever that decision is so much worse than the actual decision and any impact or fallout from it. I was listening to a podcast of Naval Ravikant, a thought leader that I really respect. The way he presents information, the way he thinks about things. He has a long career in entrepreneurship, and he made a reflection in a podcast I was listening to recently that the number one thing he would do differently in his entrepreneurial journey is he would make the same decisions, but with less stress and anxiety. And I believe for myself personally, that indecision tends to be the core driver of anxiety I have in my business. You know, there's a certain vulnerability and there's a certain amount of anxiety once I finally make a decision and I ship it out to the world, and, you know, we're kind of waiting to see the impact, waiting to see how people respond to it, if they do what we think they're going to do with that information or the offer or the sales pitch or whatever it is. You know, there's a certain amount of anxiety there for sure. But for me, the indecision of knowing I need to make changes, knowing I need to take action, is so much worse than the result of that action. So I want to bring us back to, what decision are we currently avoiding making? You know, staying relatable, I guess. This is something I'm currently struggling with in my business with DogCo, because I have been really struggling the last several months with how I want to approach growing DogCo. I love this business. I love everything about the work that I do. And there are so many different ways you can grow a business like I have, where it's in more of the digital space. There are just so many different things that I could do with it, all of them very good, but each would set DogCo on a slightly different trajectory of where it's headed. And I take that really seriously. I feel really privileged to like steward this company and to grow it and to nurture it, and slightly stuck on what would be the best path forward. What would serve my clients the best, what would serve the market the best, what would serve, the lifestyle I want in relationship to this business the best. And I, over the last several months, have felt very stuck on what to do to move forward. And this indecision has been keeping me a bit paralyzed in taking action. There are some thought processes around that have been kind of surprising to me this year, because I felt like I started this year with a really clear vision of what I wanted to do. And then as I've gotten more data and more information, has had me feeling a little bit stuck. And here's the frustrating yet true truth that I want to hold for both my company and yours. Gathering the data is important. And I still feel like I'm in a little bit of a season with that I don't want to rush past just to get to the action. And I know that at some point, I just have to start making decisions and choices for my business based off of what I think is the best path forward with the information that I have. And I will not truly know until I just do it and see what happens. So let me give you some reassuring truths that I tell myself on a daily basis to make me feel a little bit more okay with this entire process of decisions and action taking and all the things. So number one, the impact is almost always figure outable. And I really do believe this. There are very few things on a long enough time horizon that we can do to like permanently screw up our business. That is good news. That means that there's going to be a path forward. Now, does that mean your decisions will not have impact? Absolutely not. But it does mean that even if you massively make a wrong, quote unquote, decision, which gets into a whole other thought process on can there be right and wrong decisions, or is it more so decisions that serve us better or worse for where we want to go? But if we pause and think about what would truly be the most likely worst outcome of whatever decision it is, you can probably proactively figure out how would I get out of that. Most likely, even as I asked what that worst outcome would be, you had something come to mind. And most likely your brain is already starting to work on strategies of how you would get out. As an entrepreneur, we are problem solvers. We would figure it out. Not saying it'd be fun, not saying it'd be easy, but it would be figure outable. And I genuinely believe that. Number two, this is going along the same lines, but very few decisions you make are truly permanent. And I remind myself that both in a personal and professional context. If you are still alive, if you are still breathing, you will have the chance to figure something else out if you need to. I deeply believe in the resilience of humanity and the resilience of people, and try and remind myself of that, because oftentimes when we are facing a decision, it can feel just paramount to the forever of everything coming after. I'm happy to say that now that I am on my third business, that there are so many more chances and opportunities ahead for you, and that you will get another shot. If we are still here, then we get another shot. Whether that is undoing what we did, if it wasn't, we see like the best call we could have made, or just further down the line, there's so much more for us to do and learn. And then final reminder I tell to myself to make myself feel more okay with this process is that the biggest risk to my business is indecision, not wrong action. Any action you take will not be 100% successful when you first ship that decision out to the world, but it also will not be 100% wrong. And it is up to us to see it through either way. To be massively cliche, I do believe you do miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Again, totally cliche, but if we are looking back at missed opportunities in our business, most likely those missed opportunities are the result of not taking an action rather than taking an action in a not good enough way. Anytime we take an action, there is going to be this learning process of data and feedback and what happened when we tried something. And our goal should be to lean into that process more rather than kind of sitting on the edge of this decision and continuing to prolong it. My kindergarten teacher had a sign above the chalkboard in her classroom that said, reach for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. Again, a cliche, but I, like as a spunky little 5-year-old, took that so to heart that Our goal should be to get further along, to get closer, not to try and hit a bullseye every time, because it just isn't how it works, which is a good thing. That means that we get this iterative process that we can be a part of. All right, my friends, I am cheering you on to courage and conviction, and I hope that you find clarity from this forward to whatever that action is that you were thinking about through this podcast episode, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. But if there was something to come to mind, I would encourage you to take some space around that this week, this weekend, this month, to look at how could I move through indecision and into action. Real quick, if this was helpful for you, I'd love if you shared this podcast, this YouTube channel with another pet care professional to encourage them this week. All right, y'all, talk to you soon.